Have you ever had a secret so big, so risky, that getting caught felt like the end of the world? I've been there. My best friend Liam and I had a secret, a huge one. We were building something in my grandpa's old, abandoned workshop at the edge of his property. It was supposed to be our masterpiece, something that would change everything for us. We called it Project Phoenix. For months, every spare minute we had, we were in that dusty, forgotten building. We'd sneak out after school, lie to our parents about study groups, and pour our hearts and souls into it. The workshop was our sanctuary. The smell of sawdust and old oil, the glint of sunlight through the grimy windows. It was our own private world. We were two kids against the universe, with a dream only we understood. Or so we thought. The project was ambitious. We were trying to build a fully functional, solar-powered go-kart from scrap metal and parts we'd salvaged from the local junkyard. It was more than just a toy. It was our ticket to the annual Town Inventors Fair, a competition with a scholarship prize that could change our futures. Liam was the engineering genius, his mind a whirlwind of gears and circuits. I was the designer, the scrounger, the one who could talk a junkyard owner into giving us a discount on a busted lawnmower engine. We worked in perfect harmony, fueled by cheap soda and the thrill of creation. The go-kart was taking shape, slowly but surely. It was a Frankenstein's monster of a machine, but to us, it was beautiful. It was hope on wheels. But we knew we were on borrowed time. My grandpa had warned us to stay away from the old workshop. It's not safe in there, he'd grumble, full of rust and bad memories. He never explained what memories. And we were too wrapped up in our project to ask. We just got better at being sneaky. We listened for the crunch of his truck on the gravel drive, ready to douse our lights and dive behind a stack of old tires at a moment's notice. The close calls were frequent, and each one made our hearts pound a little faster, adding another layer of adrenaline to our secret mission. We felt like spies, like renegades. The danger made it all the more exciting. Then came the day it all fell apart. We were so close to finishing. The solar panels were wired, the engine sputtered to life for the first time, and we were just tightening the last bolts on the steering column. We were giddy with success, laughing and high-fiving, completely lost in our moment of triumph. We got careless. We forgot to listen. We didn't hear the soft footsteps approaching the workshop door. The door creaked open, and a long shadow fell across the floor, stretching over our beautiful, almost finished creation. We froze. My heart dropped into my stomach. Standing in the doorway, silhouetted against the bright afternoon sun, was my grandmother. Her name is Elena, but we all call her Nana. She's usually the gentlest soul you'll ever meet, always smelling of cinnamon and warm bread. But the look on her face in that moment was not gentle. It was a complex storm of emotions I couldn't decipher: shock, confusion, and something else. Something that looked like deep, profound sadness. Silence hung heavy in the air, thick with sawdust and our unspoken fears. We were busted. Caught red-handed. I braced myself for the lecture, for the disappointment, for being grounded for the rest of my life. Liam looked like he was about to faint. What? What is all this? Nana's voice was barely a whisper, but it echoed in a cavernous space. I opened my mouth to stammer out an apology, an explanation, anything. But before I could, her eyes weren't on us anymore. They were fixed on the go-kart. She walked slowly towards it, her hand trailing along a dusty workbench. She stopped right in front of Project Phoenix, her gaze tracing the lines of its mismatched frame, the repurposed bicycle wheels, the engine we so painstakingly rebuilt. She reached out a hesitant hand and touched one of the solar panels. I expected her to be angry about the mess, the disobedience, the lies. But instead, a single tear rolled down her cheek, then another. Liam and I just stared, completely bewildered. Why was she crying? She finally turned to us, a watery smile on her face. "Your grandpa," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "He would have loved this." "My grandpa? The one who told us to stay out?" I was confused, but he said this place was full of bad memories. I managed to say. Nana shook her head, wiping her eyes. Not bad memories, she corrected gently. Just unfinished ones. And then she told us a story. A story that changed everything I thought I knew about my quiet, grumpy grandfather. It turned out that 50 years ago, in his very workshop, he and his best friend had a dream of their own. They were building a car. Not a go-kart, but a real full-sized hot rod. They were teenagers, just like us, full of ambition and obsessed with engines. This workshop was their sanctuary, too. They spent every moment they could in here, pouring their dreams into that machine. They had plans to drive it across the country after graduation, but then life happened. The Vietnam War started, and my grandpa's best friend was drafted. He never came back. My grandpa was devastated. He couldn't bring himself to finish the car alone. He closed the workshop doors and never opened them again. The car, their shared dream, still sat in a far corner, hidden under a dusty tarp, a monument to an unfinished friendship. Nana pulled back the heavy canvas, and there it was. A beautiful skeletal frame of a classic car, its chrome dulled by decades of dust. It was like looking at the ghost of a dream. Suddenly, everything made sense. The warnings to stay away weren't about safety, they were about pain. He couldn't bear to look at this place, to be reminded of what he'd lost. Seeing us in here, two best friends working together, building our own dream on wheels. It wasn't a betrayal, it was an echo. A reflection of his own past. Nana explained that when she saw us, she didn't see two kids who had disobeyed. She saw my grandpa and his friend, alive again in spirit. She saw the same spark, the same passion. That evening, Nana did something incredible. She brought my grandpa to the workshop. He stood in the doorway, just as she had, his face a mask of stone. He looked at us, at our go-kart, and then his eyes landed on the old hot rod under the uncovered tarp. For a long time he said nothing. The silence was deafening. I was sure this was it, the end. But then, he walked over to our go-kart. He ran a hand over the engine, his callous fingers checking the connections. He kicked one of the tires, and then, he smiled. A real genuine smile, the kind I hadn't seen in years. "Your steering linkage is a bit loose," he said, his voice gruff but kind. "And you might want to reinforce this weld here." From that day on, the workshop became a different place. It wasn't our secret anymore, it was our shared space. Grandpa started spending his afternoons with us. He didn't just give us advice. He got his hands dirty. He taught Liam how to properly tune the engine and showed me welding techniques he hadn't used in 50 years. He started telling us stories about his friend, about their dreams. It was like a part of him that had been dormant for half a century had woken up. The workshop was no longer filled with sadness. It was filled with laughter, the roar of two different engines and 3 generations working side by side. We weren't just building a go-kart anymore. We were rebuilding a part of him too. We finished Project Phoenix with 2 new expert crew members. At the Inventors Fair, our go-kart wasn't the slickest, but it was the one with the most heart. We didn't win the scholarship, but we won something so much more valuable. We won back our grandpa. We helped heal a wound we never even knew existed. Getting caught felt like the end of the world, but it was actually a new beginning. It taught me that sometimes the secrets we keep aren't just about us, and the rules we break can sometimes be the very things that help put a broken heart back together. The story of Project Phoenix isn't just about a go-kart. It's about how an old workshop, 2 boys, and a shared dream could bridge a 50-year gap of silence and bring a family closer than ever. Thanks for watching. If this story touched you, please give it a like and subscribe for more. See you next time.